I love the names on this team. They have Sixto Sanchez, and they have my favorite name probably in baseball right now, Jazz Chisholm.
Showing emotion in baseball is terrible and should never be in the game.
It's weird how the dynamic works between sports.
But to win a championship, not only do you need great players on the court, but you need good chemistry, which takes time to develop.
Justin Fields is a all-time talent.
Corey Perry will give some veteran presence to the Canadians.
I feel like Luka will take that next step, and if he can get a three ball consistently around 35%, I feel like they could become a contender.
We can make jokes about you not being in the Super Bowl for 20-something years, but...
What's up, everyone? This is Justin Goldman from the Goalie Guild and Lift the Mask, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Austin and Kevin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NHL Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the man that saw Oppenheimer, Austin.
You saw it with me, Kevin.
I did. And to connect Oppenheimer to the NHL, we're reviewing our NHL coaches, or just NHL coaches seasons last year. Not all of them, just first-year head coaches. And it's a pretty stacked class, just like Oppenheimer had a stacked cast.
Yeah, I mean, this is 10 new head coaches last year, or coaches on new teams, not necessarily new to the league. That's almost a third of the entire NHL.
Yeah, and I would say once we get to the top, I think we'll hit some of the stacked cast, but I don't think none of these guys were fired this year, and I think they, based on their situation, had strong seasons.
Yeah, and it was a good mix of success and failure amongst these lists, or amongst this list, and two of them met in the Stanley Cup final.
That's true, and we'll get to that. I'll start it off. Number 10, I have the Blackhawks head coach Luke Richardson.
Yeah, I have him a good bit higher. I mean, not a good bit, but I don't have him that low, mainly because the Blackhawks were going to be terrible coming into the year, and everyone knew that. But the guy who I have last, Derek Lalonde, I thought the Red Wings were going to make a jump, and they were seventh in the East, or not seventh in the East. They were seventh in their division, the Atlantic Division. They were seventh, which is horrible. And they were not a good team.
Yeah, I kind of just put Luke Richardson at the bottom because I think he met expectations. They were bad, and it worked out for them. So he wasn't a bad coach. I think it was just based on his circumstances.
Yeah, but heading into the year, I feel like Lalonde had more expectations to do good, and he did not. They did not do that much better as a team than the Blackhawks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, this bottom half, just based on the teams, to me, I totally understand having different one. My 9 was David Quinn for the Sharks.
Now, that's another guy I have a good bit higher, or a couple higher, but my 9 is John Tortorella. I thought the Flyers were going to be not necessarily resurgent, but for them also to get 8th in their or 7th in their division, just like the Red Wings, just a little bit behind them. Except they were supposed to be a little bit worse, so I gave them a little bit more slack. But it was just a tough year for the Flyers and Tortorella.
Yeah, Tortorella is my next guy. I think they were expected to be better, but they were just worse, so that's why he's here. But really, yeah, the bottom coaches. My next one is Derek Lalonde too, so we probably flipped.
Yeah, my 8 is Luke Richardson, and then my 7 is David Quinn. The Sharks had exciting games, and they were 1 point above the Blackhawks. Both teams were supposed to be really bad, so I didn't really expect much out of them. The Sharks and them both have relatively the same strength of schedule, and the Sharks had 60 points, and the Blackhawks had 59. So it's not any significant difference, but I do feel like the Sharks had more exciting games. They got more development out of their players, but the Blackhawks as well, not much expectations heading into the year. So did they meet expectations? I'd say yes.
Yeah, that's fair. Then we get to we're at 6. Yeah, I believe we're at 6 now.
Yes.
I put Lane Lampert, the Islanders. I think they wanted to get to the playoffs, and they did make it to the playoffs. They squeezed in. So, yeah, that's why I have him. Why I have him at 6.
I agree. He also met expectations. I feel like they expected to go back to the playoffs, but not necessarily go far. And that's exactly what they did.
And then the next guy I had was Rick Bowness for the Jets. They were a really strong team, and they got back to the playoffs. There's a little turmoil after the season, but for the season they had, I think he's in the top 5.
I agree. I have him at 5 as well. Many people didn't expect them to return to the playoffs because they didn't bring in anyone really. So they didn't get a crazy amount of change in their lineup. There wasn't many changes at all, and the only real change was the head coach, and they got into the playoffs. So I have to give him props. They were definitely better than I expected.
Yeah, and then they kind of fell at the playoffs, but that's why he's not a little bit higher for me. My next guy is Paul Maurice.
I agree.
Oh wow,
They
okay.
they led the league in points last year. So this season when they struggle and then end up making the cup final, a lot of people anticipated them making the cup final. I was not shocked. If you would have told me at the end of the year the Florida Panthers make the Stanley Cup final, I'd have been like, okay, so they actually took the jump. But it wouldn't be a surprising thing to happen. So I agree at 4.
Yeah, I put him here lower just because of the regular season, but what saves him is they got him to the Stanley Cup final, as you said.
Yeah,
And then,
but that's still not a crazy surprising thing.
well, yeah,
so.
it's not a crazy surprise. That's why he's not higher.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't number 1 and won and made it to the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah.
My next guy is Bruce Cassidy. The expectation to me was they would be competing close to a Stanley Cup final. They won it, which I think exceeded expectations, and they were a number 1 team. But based on the expectations, I don't think he exceeded them or greatly exceeded them compared to the other 2 guys.
Yeah, I disagree with that a little bit, but we'll get to it when I get to mine. My 3 is Peter DeBoer. What he did with the team, these last 3 are very impressive to me because I don't think any of these 3 were seen to make the cup final. Vegas was expected to be much better than they were and not miss the playoffs again, but I don't think Vegas was expected to be cup finalists or to win the cup. But the Stars as well, they were a team that lost in 7 in the first round against the Flames and got much better offensively. They needed to, and that was the only way they could really take that next jump. And I was very impressed with what DeBoer could do for them.
Yeah, to go back to the Oppenheimer comparison, this is Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., and I say Matt Damon.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So this is the stat cast of the class. Yeah, I get why I haven't Pete DeBoer. He's my second guy just because, to me, the Stars wanted to get past the first round. They did. They made it to the Western Conference Final, which I think exceeded, but also they were a top team throughout. Their offense really changed for the better, in my opinion. There's still some things they could have worked on, but then, yeah, so that's why DeBoer is my 2. I think the Stars, when hiring him, were just like, we want to get past the first round.
Yeah, that makes sense. My number 2 and 1 and 2 were very close for me. I put Bruins head coach Jim Montgomery.
Okay.
His expectations heading in, a lot of people had them missing the playoffs, and they had the greatest regular season ever. And injuries to Bergeron and Krejci and Olmark in the first round definitely hurt their chances. And they lost to a team that made it to the Cup final. I'm very proud of the team. I feel like we were still the best team in hockey, and if maybe injuries don't happen or we get that goal by Marchand in Game 5, we end up going all the way to the Cup final and winning it. But it's obviously not how it was meant to be, and I can't wait for next season. I think Montgomery's definitely the right guy for the job.
Yeah, we'll have to see. He's my number one, even though they faltered in the playoffs. I think just how well they did in the regular season kind of put it off just because of the expectations were, hey, let's just get to the playoffs. And some people had him missing. So I'm assuming you have Cassidy as your number one.
I do, and I really thought about this one, and I thought about putting him lower, but how could you do better is really the question I ask. The goal of every team is to win a cup. And to win a cup, I think, even though his team was definitely expected to do much better than the Bruins during the regular season, they got the job done come playoff time, and that's all you really can expect from a head coach.
Yeah, that's fair. I understand it. Yeah, I viewed it more as the team perspective. What was their expectation? And what kind of put Cassidy down my list is, to me, the Vegas already has higher expectations than other teams. So for him to meet that, he had the best season. It's just, did he exceed the expectations? And given the high expectations of the Golden Knights, I think it was pretty tough for him. But good job for him. So,
yeah.
But yeah, overall, really stacked class. We'll have to see how the head coaches hired this year compare next year when we do this again, hopefully. But that's all I got. Any final thoughts, Austin?
No, I'm excited for next year.
Yeah, I'm excited. And we'll see what happens. That's all we got. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.